Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to How Women-Owned Business Certification Can Create a Competitive Advantage. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm the Director of Programs at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that is building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. At the center, we celebrate entrepreneurs every day, all entrepreneurs. And in October, we are celebrating National Women's Small Business Month. So we hope you will join us in celebrating too, all month long, and also every other month. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So together, we will build the greatest community and exchange of knowledge and expertise in service to entrepreneurs in business today. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Firstly, if you haven't already, I've seen many of you have, welcome. Let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. Secondly, we're going to open up for live Q&A near the end of the event, so please submit those questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We'll try our best to get to them all. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We're humbled and grateful by their contributions. Before we get started, I'm going to launch a poll that we have been taking since the beginning of the pandemic just to get a temperature gauge on how we are all doing today. So I'm going to launch this. How are you feeling about your business? Are you optimistic? In survival mode, feeling a little anxiety? We use this to help provide wellness programs for the entrepreneurs that we serve. Thank you all for letting us know. DC, we've got New Mexico, love it. Honolulu, California, a lot of time zones. Arkansas, Tucson, Arizona, awesome. We love to see it. Bunch of time zones. Michigan, welcome. Arizona, love it. Thank you all for participating in this poll. And I'm going to end that and share those results with you all. Looks like optimism is in the lead, which is good news, but there is a little bit of anxiety and survival mode and a tiny bit of fear out there. So hopefully our conversation today will help alleviate some of those sentiments. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our first special guest. Paloma Vision is the SME segment strategy for women entrepreneurs at Bank of the West and our close friend and partner. Hi, Paloma.
Hi, Colin, and thank you so much. And again, happy Women's Small Business Month. And thank you for joining the second of 4 events we have created to celebrate and inspire you on your entrepreneurial journey this month. My name is Paloma Vision, and I work at Bank of the West. For those of you not familiar with Bank of the West, we are a full-service bank operating in 19 states. We offer everything from retail and consumer banking, business banking, commercial banking, as well as wealth management. At Bank of the West, we are a fundamentally different bank. Our leaders consider issues like gender equality, diversity, and our impact on the world when making decisions. And I'm very fortunate to lead our Women Entrepreneurs segment at the bank, where I get to put together strategies and solutions to help women entrepreneurs like yourselves as they build and grow their businesses. Before we get to our main event, I wanted to remind you all of the amazing contributions and strides women entrepreneurs continue to make. First, women own 42% of the businesses in the United States. Women of color account for 50% of female business owners. Your businesses generate $1.9 trillion annually, and you employ 9.4 million people. Those are truly incredible numbers. And so thank you all for your contributions you are making to the communities you serve. Today's topic is how women-owned business certification can create a competitive advantage. I hope this topic will inspire you to invest in yourself by getting certified and give you an additional way to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce my colleague, Wendy Mann-Flores, Head of Supplier Diversity at Bank of the West, and 2 long-term friends of our program, Jennifer Piet, Founder and CEO at Narrative Food, and Betsy Vavrin, Founder and President of SMC Marketing, and a new friend, Pat Sanford, CEO of Alexander Perry Incorporated. So with that, Wendy, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on what part of the country you're in. Thank you for the great introduction, Paloma. I am so excited to be here with you all this afternoon. We have three amazing panelists who are going to share their story about their certification journey and about their business and some of the things that they've taken away from some of the challenges maybe that they've confronted in their business and how certification has helped them overcome those hurdles. So I am so excited to be here with you all today, and I know you will find this as inspiring as I do. Thank you. So with that, I am going to ask each of our panelists, before we get started with our questions, to give us a few minutes each of an overview of who you are, what your business is, and how you got started. So Betsy, can you let us know a little bit about you and what your business encompasses? You're on mute.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you for your great introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I thank the Center and I thank Bank of the West for this kind introduction. It's wonderful to speak to all of you with regards to certification. It's a process I started later during my company. I started my company in 1996 and I came out of banking. And I initially started working on a number of clients. In fact, one of them was the company that actually acquired my company, which was Great Western Bank. And so I began working with another bank, which became Chase. And it was so busy for me. So I'm very one of those lucky people who essentially fell into my business because I was looking at a number of other different things to do. And I ended up starting my company right away and had clients to work with. And quite honestly, certification was not something that occurred to me right away. I was so busy working with clients and I had it in the back of my mind to certify. And I kept looking at different certification processes and thought, oh, I never have time to do that. I just don't know when I would do that. So it really was in the last couple of years. So I'm a late bloomer when it comes to certification, but I've learned so much about the process that I'm thrilled to be sharing that with all of you. It's a process that's really easier than you think it is, and especially if you find the right partner to do it with. I was very fortunate. There's a number of resources available to women of color-owned businesses that are free, they're complimentary, they're wonderful learning devices. And I'm probably one of those few people who really appreciate the pandemic because it gave me time to do so many things that I really didn't have time to do. I had the ongoing clients that I was working with, and that was wonderful. But I obviously couldn't reach out to anyone else to develop business. So my team and I had opportunities to look in different directions and decided this was the time to take advantage of some of the learnings I had had from attending Small Business Development Council meetings. I had been to SCORE meetings. If you're not familiar with any of these resources, I really encourage you to take a look at them because they're free. I listened to webinars that were from Northern California, Southern California, New York, Chicago, Miami, and they were so helpful to me in learning about my business, the structure of my business, how to certify, who to look for, etc. So at the end of one of those here in Southern California, I was able to connect to someone with the SBDC who became my advisor. And he described the process, helped me through each of the stages, and honestly showed me how easy it would be to do. Well, I say that because it was easy to the point where I am a woman-owned business. SMC Marketing is my company, but I am a DBA of a corporation. What I didn't know until I started this process is I needed to be 51% ownership of the corporation. So my husband was deposed. He's the other DBA of our corporation. And it was a lot of paperwork other people probably wouldn't have to go through. But first learn or understand what your entity is. Maybe you're a sole practitioner, maybe you're a partnership, maybe you are part of a corporation, maybe you're an LLC, but understand what your ownership is of that entity, because that's what's going to drive you through the entire process. And that's how you certify yourself. And that's how you certify yourself in terms of the majority ownership. And the majority ownership means a lot, because it means that you have control of all the management processes, that there's no other group of ownership within the company that has control of any of the financial decisions that are made, et cetera. So I'm probably confusing everyone with telling you too much, but learn about the process, learn about the different opportunities. For me, I chose to go with the SBA Women-Owned Small Business process. There's many others out there. You can look into those, take a look at what they are, determine what was going to work best for you, what kind of time you want to spend on it, and that will tell you a lot. So as a late certification, I really am excited to tell you about that, because it has so much to do with supplier diversity. If you want to know about supplier diversity, just do a Google search, supplier diversity, and look at the different industries you're in, and it'll show you how important it is.
Thank you so much, Betsy. Great information. We're going to dive into a lot of the points that you just mentioned further down into the program, but thank you so much for your intro. Pat, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Happy to do so. And thank you so much for this platform and this opportunity. Again, yes, Pat Sanford. I'm the CEO of Alexander Perry, Inc., and we're based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I started a company in 1992, 30 years ago, after I left my corporate job at Signal Corporation. I was running major projects and major teams, and my friends encouraged me to just go ahead out there and start your own business, which I did in 1992. I have industry relatives, so it was helpful. What we do is we provide architecture and construction management services to Fortune 500 companies. So companies like Signal Corporation. We have done work with Citizens Bank in the past. We just were a recipient of a Comcast Rise grant. We're so proud of JP Morgan grant. And the thing that we say to everyone is we want to be your one-stop shop. So we can build it, we can design it, and then we have construction and products that you would need whenever you're building your business. Excellent. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And what was the catalyst that drove you to get your certification for your business?
So again, I've been in business for 30 years. I did not get my women's certification until last year, but I'm anxious to tell everyone how I dove in, and I'm probably a recipient of every program WeBank offered. And the catalyst was I'm certified minority business, so I've done that for years. I did not get the women business certification. Just my relationships were more with on the minority and national minority supplier development side. But I kept running into supplier diversity, people like yourself that would always say, it's going to make a difference when you get that WeBank certification. And I am absolutely here to tell you it did make a difference. Corporations take this certification very seriously.
Thank you, Pat, so much. And Jennifer, can you let us know a little bit about yourself and your business and where you're at in the certification process?
Hi, Wendy. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. I founded Narrative Food in 2010, and at that time we were a farm-to-table home delivery service. In 2013, we got our first certification, which was B Corp certification, to emphasize our social and environmental commitments and also to use the B Corp metrics to constantly improve. I see it as a work in progress always. We focused on the local impact model at that time, where we were both sourcing and delivering locally. You asked about challenges as well, and so I thought I'd just speak a little bit to my pandemic experience, which was initially we were really overwhelmed by the demand for home delivery. There was an article in the New York Times just at the very beginning as well, and so suddenly we had literally hundreds of people signing up every day. And you can remember how chaotic everything was during the shutdown with the supply chain issues, and we had to scale our production and keep everybody safe because we were suddenly frontline workers, which was new to us. And my team safety was really top of mind for me. But that said, we were able to support all of our stakeholders during that time, buying from makers and growers whose sales to restaurants and farmers markets had disappeared, and therefore all the households on lockdown who are looking for healthy foods on their doorsteps. But the next year in 2021, when everything opened back up again, a lot of those new customers were wanting to go back out shopping. And suddenly we found ourselves with expenses that were higher than our sales. And by the end of the year, we realized that 12-year-old model just wasn't viable anymore. And so instead of just giving up, we decided to pivot into what we'd been doing as a sideline for many years, which is corporate gifting. And at that point, we decided to join 1% for the Planet and developed a new impact model through B Corp, which is called Design to Give, where our curated gifts give back a minimum of 2% of all sales to related nonprofits. And we create printed inserts that go with the gifts to really communicate each gift's impact to its recipients. So we're really excited to be continuing our journey in the corporate gifting space because so many companies have shifted into a model with remote teams. And so our gifts are a great way for companies to share their company culture with their stakeholders, whether it's clients or employees or board members, through gifts which are aligned and impact driven. So now that we work with companies more so than direct to consumer, the women-owned business certification seemed much more useful and pertinent to us. And so we're in the process right now of getting certified, and we can answer to what that process looks like from the point of view of being inside it, although we're in the process for one, and we did get another one, and we can speak to that with further questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer, so much. And at this point, I know that there have been a lot of pre-submitted questions around what are the requirements of becoming a WBE or a woman-owned business. And I'm going to go through a high-level summary of what those requirements are. And if anyone is interested in more in-depth detail after the program, we are happy to help guide you and point you in the right direction and get the right information in front of you. So I will go through just some high-level bullet points. In order for you to obtain your certification for your woman-owned business, the business must be owned by a woman or women. So there can be multiple owners. So let's say you have 3 owners in your company, one's a male and 2 are women. At least 51% of ownership has to be held by women. And the women who are owners of the business must be involved in the day-to-day operation of the business. It can't be that your husband owns a business and he just wants to put you as half owner to get the certification. You actually have to be involved in the day-to-day and understand the ins and outs of the business and be able to run the business. And if he's away on a business trip or something, you must be able to take the reins and run that business day-to-day. The majority of the owners, the 51%, must be either a US citizen or a legal resident. The company has to be a for-profit business. So your whole business model must be, focused on earning money for profit. You can never be an owner of a business and have been disbarred or suspended by your state for any federal entity. You must have a place of business in the US. Your headquarters must be based in the US. You can have branches all over the world, but your main business must have a US address. And you can qualify, as Betsy was saying, through the SBA as an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. It's another program that's very special within itself. And we can get more into details and provide information on all of the programs available to women-owned businesses as we go further down into the program. So Jennifer, I want to start off with asking you about some of the things involved in the process right now that you're going through. Can you tell us a little bit about the certifications that I know you recently were certified with one entity and you're working on another? Can you give us a little bit of background about the process and what's involved? You're on mute.
Sorry. So
That's
I
okay.
opted to go with certifications which are free. And there is a little bit of a roadblock right now because for the one through the SBA, you need to have a utility supplier diversity. You need to have the this number that SAMS gives you, and it takes a long time to get that number. So until you have that number, you can't actually move forward. So to begin with, I went to my SBA advisor to help me with this, and she suggested that we start with the supplier clearinghouse has a certification which is a bit faster, and we're now certified by them, and that means that we're recognized by the joint utilities when competing for procurements by public utilities participating in the utility supplier diversity program in California. And that should also give us access to some invite-only contracts we would otherwise not be eligible for. There's a lot of paperwork I can talk about. It's the unique entity ID, which is the number you have to get from SAMS, which, I've been waiting for over a month, and I've nudged, and I'm just waiting for that. My advisor said once we have that number to allow about 2 to 3 hours to go through the actual filling in the paperwork. And one of the things that I found is that you actually have to get a notarized affidavit. And I got that notarized for the SBA one. And then when I went through the clearinghouse, I realized they had their own affidavit. And so I think each entity probably has their own affidavit that needs notarizing. Otherwise, a lot of the paperwork is really relative to your corporate documents that prove your ownership in the company, bylaws, documents showing outside shareholders. And in some cases, there were questions where it was just enough for me to explain with a note instead of giving actual documentation to prove it. But yeah, the big roadblock on the SBA one, which is really what I'm going for, is just waiting on this unique entity ID number.
Okay, great. And I just saw someone pop up in the chat that mentioned WeBank as the gold standard in WBE certification. In the supply diversity industry, that is actually true. WeBank is very stringent with their process. They're making sure they're crossing all their T's, dotting all their I's. They are the gold standard, but SBA and the clearinghouse certification are also widely accepted. Pat, I know you have multiple certifications. Can you tell us a little bit about, do you have the WeBank certification you mentioned?
100%, yes. Now, the WeBank certification was definitely more stringent than the certifications I'd been accustomed to, but I get it because the certification is really about, number one, are you a woman-owned business for sure? And then are you managing the operations of your organization, not behind someone else? So they do go into a lot of questions in detail that will make sure that you are the owner, 51% or more of the company. And they do a visitation at the end to make sure to meet your team, to meet, to tour your offices. I know Jennifer mentioned earlier that in terms of doing certifications that are free, but WeBank, for the last 2 years, major corporations have been paying for our certification. So my recertifications have been paid by a major corporation. I think Lowe's did it 1 year, and I think Waste Management another year. So there's a major benefits. And now in terms of the woman-owned small business with the SBA, WeBank actually worked to get my WOSB certification. They're already linked in with the entity. I was already on SAM. SAM is part of the federal government, sam.gov. So I did have all those identifying numbers, but they did help with certifying. So now I'm certified with WeBank and also with WOSB. And I just think that, just the amount of education I've received from WeBank is astronomical. I mean, I have women in leadership from eCornell. I've been through We Thrive, We Grow. I'm going to Talk next week. IBM's paying for that. And I've been in the oil and gas industry that's WeBank paid for that trip to Texas. So the other advantages is also the education and learning about your metrics and customer journeys. And I mean, I could go on for hours about the benefits, but like I said, I just got certified 2 years ago and I jumped right in.
Excellent. Yes, excellent resources with all of these organizations to support women who are, looking to develop their business, getting their certification. And I had also heard that there are grants through major corporations, through the diversity councils to help fund the certification process for businesses that need it. So the help and the resources they're definitely out there.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that we needed it. It's just that for anybody recertifying, your fees are being paid by. So that was an added benefit I was not expecting.
Absolutely. So Betsy and Pat, this question's for you. So how often do you have to renew your certification? How long is the certification good for? And is it different with the SBA versus WeBank?
It's a year with the WeBank.
Okay.
And SBA, I guess a couple years. Yeah.
Betsy, you're on mute.
I was renewing this year. So yes, I believe it's every year. And then thereafter that, it might be every couple of years. But I was so interested in what Jennifer was talking about and some of the issues that she's faced, because again, my certification was done by someone else. In other words, because the SBDC advisor that I had took care of all of that, I probably didn't stumble into any of the issues that you had. I know it took a long time to get certain things, and the process it seemed to be disjointed to me because I didn't have the roadmap. And I think that's what would have helped me from the very beginning, is to have had my advisor say, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is going to take this amount of time. Here's what we're going to do. This is going to take this amount of time, because all of this was happening. And I wouldn't hear from him for about a month or so. And I'd think, is something still going on? What is happening? So it was a happy ending to it all. But I do want to also refer to what Pat said with regards to SAM. I mean, there's an acronym that maybe people who are listening and looking at certification don't know, but that's the System for Award Management. And it's the process that you go through to be certified through the SBA. I don't know if that's what also happens with the WBE, but I've also learned from Pat now how that was a process with the WBA and the documentation, financial documentation that they were looking for and such, that I wasn't really prepared to provide. And again, although it's a woman-owned company, I do still have someone else who's part of the corporation saying, I don't know if we want to give both of our companies information to the government, blah, blah, blah. So we didn't go through the SBA for that particular reason.
Okay.
But I really am very excited to hear the kinds of events that you've been invited to go to and such. So it's given me another reason to take a look at that process.
Absolutely.
Great. So is the renewal process as stringent as the original certification, or is it much easier to go through?
Oh, yeah, not at all. I mean, there's an affidavit that says, nothing changed, or, if something did change, you can make that adjustment. Maybe your stock certificates, maybe you sold 20% of your company, and then they may ask who those, you know, who you sold the company to and that information. But it's definitely not as stringent. I see people are asking like the cost, and the cost of the certification is based on your revenue. So that's why they are asking for tax returns. So it's a percentage. It's you know, 1,000 to such and such amount is this fee. So it is based on, and they have that on the website. It's based on your revenue.
And it's more affordable than you'd think. It's very affordable.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, I have the costs right in front of me. So it ranges from companies under $1 million at $350 to, you know, $50 million companies at 1,000. So,
right.
You know,
so very low.
Very affordable. Very affordable. So what about resources for women that are interested in getting their certifications? What do you all recommend for women watching right now, you know, thinking about getting certified? What are some resources you all would recommend for them to look into to learn more about the process?
Well, I mean, I can speak, I did my own certification, but that's because we have all those documents already compiled for the other certifications we had. But PTAC is local to everyone's state, is a sort of organization that works with a university, and they have resources. I think someone mentioned that they have free resources to help you through that process. Also, SCORE, which is with SBA, could be another resource. A lot of accounting firms will help, but I really don't think that the process of getting certified is that arduous, where you'd have to necessarily pay someone to help put together your package. But then again, I've been in business 30 years, so maybe I'm just, you know, I already have the information. I think they do ask for a business plan. So maybe you would need help with the business plan. Your CPA could help you with the financial documentation that they need, the tax returns. You will have to either give driver's license or birth certificate to prove that, you know, you're a female owns company, and whatever your stocks were, and then your meeting minutes that you have each year for your corporation. The type of corporation you have is going to be important. If it's LLC, they're going to want other documentation. If you're, you know, a C corporation versus an S corporation. So those are areas I think where accountants would be good, but certainly I think anyone at your PTAC, which is a local center. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but every university has it. And basically it's to help a small business.
Great. Yeah, I noticed on the WeBank website that they have a lot of great information and lists of eligibility criteria for any woman who is interested to see if she's eligible. So that's an excellent place to start. And I'm sure the SBA has something similar. Any of the certifying organizations should have that information right on their website.
That's good.
Awesome. So Jennifer, you sell a product, and Betsy and Pat, you're more service industry. A lot of people seem to think that certifications help more like manufacturers or people that are selling hard goods. Pat and Betsy, can you guys talk a little bit about the impact that your certification has had on your businesses being service oriented?
Well, for me, as I said before, looking at just going to Google, looking at procurement or looking at supplier diversity programs and looking specifically at the industry that you're in. So for example, when I had my company certified and I knew I was interested because my company has been working with financial institutions for 26 years. I came out of banking. My company has always worked on loyalty programs and customer relationship programs. And now we're focused on women and diverse business owners and how to make sure that they have the kind of information and programs that they should have. And of course, funding is a big deal of that. What I was able to do is learn what the procurement process was for each of those institutions. So I have a binder that has all of the financial institutions listed and what their procurement process is and what I went through to become a supplier of each of those institutions. And what ends up happening with those, once you become a supplier, you're acknowledged, and there's opportunities to have conversations back and forth between different departments because each department has an interest, and then your information is supplied to them. And one of the things that we haven't talked about that's really part of the certification process is having a capability statement. And that's something that I wasn't even familiar with because I'd used the website, and that really was what had presented the qualifications of my company. But what I learned is the capability statement talks about the core competency of my organization and what our specific differentiators are and what our codes were. So for example, if you are a certified small business, then you have a certain corporate data that you would include on the capability statement. And you also have an opportunity to be able to feature some of the programs that you've done. So different entities that you are speaking with in your particular industry have an idea of what your capabilities are in that area. So it's not to be overlooked, and it certainly is something that as you become certified, you will utilize quite a bit.
Excellent, excellent point about the capability statement, Betsy. As someone who has worked in supplier diversity for several years now, something that I absolutely love is if I'm researching a company, that I don't have to hunt to find out if they are a certified company or not. It's right there on their website. Their capability statement is embedded in their website. You know, whoever you're certified with, whether it's WeBank or SBA, it's right there on your opening page. That is like my biggest piece of advice, just to make sure you're telling people about this great tool that you're using. So very, very good point.
And part of your signature on your email.
That's right. That's right. Pat, how about you? Have you found that it's been beneficial as a service provider versus a company that sells goods?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, WeBank does a great job at offering programs that help you with your capability statement, and then actually presenting it and pitching it right to corporate supplier diversity folks. So I participated in that as well. But from the service side, one of the things I think is really great is that we get to meet a lot of the corporation supplier diversity through networking, events that they have in your region. And then when it's time to go to the national conference, which we just came back from in Atlanta, some of those same supplier diversity business people that we're trying to do business with were there. And now we're seeing each other again. So this in service, it really is about relationship building. And the only way that you can build a relationship is to constantly be in front of them via your capability statement, but then also events that are being sponsored. If you attend those events, they get to see you, they get to see maybe some of your team members. There becomes a relationship that's being built and a comfort level. And I have absolutely gotten business that way because of doing just that. And even being here on this panel was from a relationship with a prior customer.
That's right. From one of my past jobs,
Nico.
Pat and I knew each other in a former life.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Great. So I want you all to speak to how holding a certification is a game changer. Is it a differentiator for women to hold a certification for their business when they're competing for bids and projects with companies. Can all three of you speak to that? I know, Jennifer, this is probably a little bit too new for you since you're just becoming certified, but I am so happy to learn, and I'm sure you are too, from some veterans in, with the certification. So Pat and Betsy, can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's interesting that you would talk about that, because I just returned from a conference for banking, for small business bankers. And there were a number of executives and senior small business banking executives at the meeting. And I was fortunate to actually moderate a session on those. And we were having a conversation about that. And somehow the concept of being a woman-owned small business was made, because that was the topic of the program we were going to be presenting. And I was very surprised at how many people spoke up and said, "Oh, that's great. You have that. That's such a differentiator." And we all do this sort of in our own area. We don't think about, well, what is the response going to be? Unless we're having, as Pat has had so many success stories that she can share from that. But I've never had that someone give me feedback with regards to whether or not that really was a differentiator and what that meant. I know that there are certain percentages that corporations and federal government requires for women-owned small businesses, but I'd never really heard some kind of confirmation about that. And I was really happy to hear that.
Thanks, Betsy. Pat, can you share some?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And, the federal government, unlike before, they've always had requirements to have contracts go to women or minorities, but now it is actually mandated by the president. So it is absolutely a game changer. And, there's women organizations that are sponsoring like 5%. We want to be above the 5% number for the $1 trillion spend. So it is a game changer, because for the federal government is actually tied to their job. And so they have to let some of those contracts go to women. But the other thing that it does too is in your region or in your place of business, it does set you apart because of the different organizations that are looking for women business owners. The fact that you were able to get certified, you have that certification on your business card, on your website, then you are, and on your LinkedIn profile, you would be surprised at how many people are already looking for you. The supplier diversity reps are all talking to each other. So they're going to recommend, hey, do business with Jennifer, do business with Betsy. I mean, even if they're not in the same industry, this is what I now noticed, that I could maybe have a conversation with someone from a corporation. Maybe we don't have a connection in terms of business that they have, but someone else may reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for a woman-owned architecture firm. Do you know any? Yes, I just met one the other day. So it does put you in a special arena, and I think it is a game changer. I think it's something that's going to become even more palatable for you going forward. I absolutely would recommend a WeBank certification.
Thanks, Pat. Jennifer, did you want to add something, or you just?
Yeah, no, I did.
Okay.
You mentioned it in the beginning, but I found it surprising when I found the definition of the EDWOSB, which is small business concern that is considered economically disadvantaged, because actually the consideration for that is to have a personal net worth less than $750,000 and your adjusted gross income per year averaged over the last 3 years prior to certification may not go above $350,000, and the fair market value of all your assets cannot surpass $6 million. So just wanting to say, I think a lot more people might qualify for that than you might think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, before I turn it over to Paloma for our live Q&A, I just wanted to add something about having that certification. I have worked a lot with WeBank in the past, and that's probably why I keep alluding to WeBank as the organization that I'm more familiar with. But when you have your certification, you are listed in their database. And supplier diversity professionals use diversity council databases to put together lists of diverse suppliers. For example, if there's a big initiative in your company and they need, let's say, like vegetation management companies that are women, you can go into the database and plug in, the parameters you're looking for and pull up a list. It gives you more exposure as a business, is what I'm trying to say. So that's one of the great benefits also of having your certification. So Pat and Betsy and Jennifer, thank you so much for your insight and sharing your journeys with us. And Paloma, I know I've been watching the chat. There are so many questions, and we are so excited to be able to answer and hopefully share information with other women out there.
Great. And thank you. And thanks to the panel. This has just been an amazing conversation. So lots of Q&A. Please feel free to drop more questions into the Q&A. We're going to see how many of these we can get through, but I'm really excited. So first question that came across, and I think it's a great one. And I think this group, most of you serve corporations, but I think potentially Jennifer and Wendy, you can add a little bit more color on this. You're not serving corporations. Can you speak to the benefits of being WBE certified and why is that helpful for customers? I think we all understand if you're going to bid and you're looking at supplier diversity programs, why that's a benefit. But if you're not going that route, why should you get certified?
So I can speak to that. Like I mentioned, just having that certification when you're able to share your like Betsy said, the capability statement is huge for a business. Put together a really solid capability statement. Make sure you're putting on your who you're certified with. That really goes a long way. A lot of companies are very strict with who they engage with. They are very focused on having certain certified types of businesses do business with their company, whether that's NMSDC, which is the National Minority Supplier Development Council certification, or WeBank certification. It is very important for a lot of companies to know that they are dealing with someone who's been through the rigorous process of getting those certifications. It gives, I'm just going to say it in slang terms, it kind of gives you street cred. As a girlfriend of mine always said, it lets people know that you are serious about your business and about making sure that you are complying with all of the requirements to be deemed a certified business.
Great.
Anyone want to add anything to that?
Okay.
If I might interrupt just for a second, Paloma. One of the things, I mentioned the SBA and the women-owned small business, and because it is tilted a bit towards government agencies rather than corporations, what I was really surprised to see is after I had completed the certification for my company, I was getting a lot of emails to do RFPs, to respond to RFPs. So a lot of what you're doing doesn't require you to reach out necessarily and do a lot of work. A lot of that comes back to you in ways that you really might not even expect to see. So that was quite a surprise to me.
Awesome.
Great point, Betsy.
Thank you so much, Betsy. And thanks, Wendy, as well. Pat, I'm going to address this question to you. If I'm a Black woman who has 51% ownership, which certification is best? Do I go the minority route? Do I go the woman-owned route? Do I do both?
Right. I would definitely suggest doing both. There's completely different networks and resources in either. I can tell you that the WeBank certification seems to be making the biggest impact for my business. The minority certification is also good. There's a conference coming up. I think I've heard that if you go to the conferences maybe 2 or 3 times, the third time you can maybe end up with some contracts because they see you a lot. But I would think that you should do both, 100%.
Awesome. Thank you. I think maybe Wendy, I'll put this one over to you. What are the benefits of getting nationally certified versus your state? And is there really any difference?
So for the organization that I'm most familiar with, which is WeBank, at the bank, we work with their regional office, the Western region, which is based in California. But the same criteria and the same benefit is across the board. So I'm pretty sure since the SBA is a federal agency, it would encompass the entire country as well.
Great. Thank you. Anyone want to add on to that question?
I can add to that because I saw a question too about city, particularly we're in Philadelphia. The state has a certification process. I'm state certified and city certified. It's reciprocal. If you're WeBank or NMSDC, you can automatically just send that into the city and then they'll certify you as well. And I think where that's good is, of course, it's going to be local to your area. So any of the contracts, we just won a contract with the mayor's office of ADA. And that's because they saw our name on the city registry. So I think that if you are serious about doing business and being noticed in your area, that it would make sense.
Great. Thank you. This kind of goes back to requirements for getting certified. Is there a time and business age that needs to be met, or, do you need to be over a year, or can you join as a startup, one of the certification programs?
I think the earlier you start, the better.
Yeah, as long as you can provide the documentation through the certification process, whether those are, like if you're just starting out and you want to certify, you might have to pull your personal income tax because you don't have any business income tax returns yet. As long as you can provide the documentation that they need, time and business should not be an issue.
Great, thank you. I know we've already talked about this quite a bit, but I'd just like to come back to, is this useful if you're a service-based business? It kept coming up in chat. We got it again in Q&A. So I know Pat and Betsy, I'd just love for you to hit on this one more time, maybe very succinctly for the group.
Yes, absolutely. Whether you have a product or you have a service, it's important. It's important that you certify your company as woman-owned. And the reason is because regardless of whether it's a product or a service, the companies that you're talking to or the entities you're talking to, if they're government entities, they have a necessary reason to hire you. They have a certain expectation. And as Pat described, the federal government has a 5%. Most corporations have a similar percentage that they want to have of women, small business owners that are certified. So I really think it's worth looking into. And as I said, for myself, when we were first certified, I was looking at Google, I was looking at procurement, I was looking at procurement and banks, I was looking at all of those. And that's how I compiled the whole information that I have in a binder with regards to what prospects exist out there for me. And to have those kinds of conversations that you're starting with that entity, with that corporation, you're inside that organization already because they share that information with all the different business units.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to what Betsy stated. The thing that I think is really good about why I hear this a lot from service companies, service businesses. For example, they could be accounting or legal or consulting. They think, well, why should I, or you may think, why should I get certified? Like, what difference is that going to make? Because you have a specific service and a specific target. But what I will tell you I found is, for example, I'm talking to Nike. I'm WeBank, part of a Nike Academy program. And I would never have had Nike on my list. However, Nike builds retail stores. I do design and construction. So what happens is while you may have your target market, this opens you up to start to look at what other types of businesses you can do business with. And by the way, you can also do business with your other fellow WeBank certified companies. Someone is looking for an accountant, someone's looking for an attorney. We're talking to some strategic consulting planning companies about some things we're trying to do. So that's the other thing that's also good about certification, is doing business with each other as well. But do not count out your service business, because everybody buys everything. Not more than the federal government, but you just, you know.
Yeah.
Can I just add, I want to add something to that. So one of my biggest pieces of advice I always give to any diverse business looking to get their foot in the door is to really do their homework and understand your prospective customers' stance on supplier diversity. See if they have a supplier diversity website that you can peruse, and understand where the value is for them in engaging with diverse suppliers. And I think you will be surprised if you really do your research and then approach your engagement with that knowledge that you've learned. I think it can be so helpful for you.
You make such a good point, Wendy. And what you said reminded me of a conversation I was having with a financial company, a prospect. And I remember she mentioned to me, "Are you certified?" And I wasn't at the time. And that really was what catapulted me into really taking it seriously, because that was part of her determining factors in whether or not she would consider my company.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your insights today. We're just going to wrap up with a quick kind of 10 seconds. What is that one key takeaway you want everyone to walk away with? So before I turn it over to our panel, I just want to say, you guys invested time in today, so continue to invest in yourself. If this is the right step, which I hope you feel like it is, because it is, take the time, read up more on getting certified, and use those resources that the team has highlighted. Wendy?
Absolutely. Yes, I appreciate the panel so much and what I've learned from all three of you. And I'm always so inspired whenever we have these events. I'm just in awe of the work you've put in your businesses and your journeys. And I appreciate each and every one of you sharing your insights with us here on the panel. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. My last closing remark is, first of all, thank you to the center. Thank you to Bank of the West. Thank you to my fellow panelists, because I've learned so much. There's more about the certification process that I had forgotten, but now I'm happy that I went through. And Pat, all of the stories that you shared are so inspiring. And it makes me want to take another look at the WBE and the WeBank. And just in closing to say, it's never too late to certify.
That's right.
And yes, I want to thank everyone today. I've been partaking in Nasdaq's webinars. I was actually signed up for it. So to have the opportunity to be a panelist is quite wonderful, because I get an opportunity to share. And I can tell you that my takeaway would be that absolutely get certified, because it opens up so many doors that you may not even know that you could walk through. For example, once you get the certification, you can absolutely market that and get yourself additional business. I'm excited for each one of you, because I know that this is going to be a game changer for you. So I thank you, Wendy, and my fellow panelists and Nasdaq for this opportunity. And West Bay.
Thanks, Pat. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go real fast because I can see the time is up, and I also just want to thank everybody. And yeah, I'm really just hoping that, our impact on different levels, from B Corp certification to the 1% for the planet to the women-owned business certifications, really just give us that little extra edge when looking for contracts, but also just little parentheses, with our B Corp certification, we've been part of We the Change, which is a group of the women CEOs of B Corps, and that's been an incredible network. And so I also really urge you to engage with the women business owner networks, because there's a lot of solidarity there, both in finding clients, but also finding potential collaborators. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Well, speaking of thanks, thank you, Wendy, for leading such an amazing conversation. Thank you, Jennifer, Pat, and Betsy, for sharing your lived experiences. And thank you to Paloma for helping putting all this together and carrying us across the line. On behalf of everyone in attendance, I'm sure as you're seeing in the chat right now, we really appreciate you sharing your time, talent, and wisdom today. For those of you still on, we've got some great upcoming webinars and a couple more for women entrepreneurs in October. So on October 18th, join us for planning for retirement for women entrepreneurs. And also Bank of the West is hosting a very special event on October 26th, and it's around Women Entrepreneurs series, Marketing with a Purpose. But thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to everyone who's attended. Hopefully this was helpful, and we look forward to seeing you all online soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.